But I was really curious about Vietnam because we would get all these conflicting stories about what was going on over there. And even though initially I had joined the Air Force to avoid Vietnam, I ended up volunteering to go there. So I was accepted, and they sent me back to San Antonio to the language school there, and that was a fairly brief session in learning the techniques of teaching English as a second language. To get training for the Vietnamese Air Force, supposedly they would learn enough English so they could come to the US, and then they would get direct instruction in pilot training and weapons mechanics and things like that, and then go back to Vietnam and take over the war. That was the intent anyway, but it was interesting to me that, and these were just kids, I mean, most of them were late teenagers, maybe early 20s, but as brutal it was over there at the time, a lot of them didn't want to come to the US. Some of them did, but a lot of them just wanted to stay in Vietnam. So they did really well in the classroom. They learned a lot of English. But then to go to the next level, they had to take a test, a proficiency test. And many of them, I'm sure, failed it on purpose because they didn't want to leave. In particular, two of them became really good friends of mine. And when my school was attacked, they were kind of trying to take care of me, you know. They were very protective. And I remember sitting in the hallway when all this was going on, explosives and so forth, and these two guys, one was on either side of me, and I was going to go look to see what was going on. But these guys had, you know, they'd been through this violent stuff before living there, and they wouldn't let me. They said, no, you stay here, you stay here. Okay, the school was over on this side. This is an old hotel, and my classroom would have been one of these up here. The way it looked, they had planted some plastic charges in different places in the school during the night, the previous night, and then the next day. They had loaded this little thing, was a Fiat. They had loaded it with explosives and rammed it into the side of the school, and it blew up. And then there were several minor explosions after that. There were, I think, 18 people were killed. But fascinating to me that I don't think any of the students were killed. None of mine were. I think I had 9 or 10 students at the time, and none of them got hurt at all, and I didn't get hurt. But most of those who got killed were just innocent passersby. I mean, they had nothing to do with this. This young Vietnamese lieutenant who was the Vietnamese commander of the school, he was in charge of the students. He was married, and he and his 2 kids lived in an apartment at the end of the school over here. His wife and 2 kids were killed by the blast. And several teachers were injured, but I don't think any of them required hospitalization or anything. They knew we were leaving, but they wanted us to get out of there as soon as they could get us out. The story on the street was, I don't know if this was true or not, but this was my teaching badge. We all had to wear this when we were in the classroom. It's the Defense Language School badge we wore on our shirt. But the instructions were you'd never wore this on the street. You didn't wear it outside of the school, because if the Viet Cong got one of these in cash, they would make like $1,000 for each one of these instructors badges that they could collect. So it was fine to wear in school, and we all did. But once we stepped out of that school, we put it in our pocket because we didn't want anyone knowing that what we were doing there.